all members are present. Our village attorney is present. All members are present except for Mr. DeCourcy Bauer. I am sorry. He may be tuning or coming in at any moment. Our village attorney is here, among others. So, the first item on our agenda, I'm sorry, is there any public comments for items that are not on the agenda? If anybody would like to address anything that's not on the agenda, you can step towards the podium at this time. So with that, we'll move to the first item on the agenda, which is consideration of a motion to approve the Joint Architectural Board Plan Commission minutes of the November 16th, 2020 meeting.
Also move.
It's been moved and seconded to approve.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the village board minutes. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. The next item that we have on the agenda is discussion and possible action for Sandhill Condominium Development, PUD petition, and general development plan. This is the only item, so it should give us a lot of time, if we need it, to go over this development. I think for the board, I'm going to ask that I think we should be able to do what we need to do in a productive manner in about 45 minutes. So I'm hoping we can aim for that goal, not because anyone has anywhere to get to, but as opposed to, I feel like a lot of the productive conversation does usually happen with big projects like this in the first 20, 30 minutes. And then sometimes it turns into just, we don't need to haggle over one tiny issue. However, with me saying that, that's just general guidance. The board itself has the power to overrule me and say, nope, we're going long. So just throwing that out there. But
Mr. President, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, then I'm fine.
Okay. Thank you, Dino.
So with that said, we are very excited to talk about this development. They were here in front of this group with the concept plan. The concept plan has been adjusted in a couple of minor aspects, which we will discuss as we go through. But staff got together and put together our normal memo led by Ryan. And I think if Ryan wants to go through the memo and some of the points and then turn it over to the developer, and then obviously questions and comments.
Okay, I'd be glad to. So the Plan Commission and the Village Board have seen the concept phase of this development. And this is a development that's been in the works for about 10 years. It's a part of the northeast part of the village development, and it was originally contemplated to be single-family homes, I think 47 in number. So the Seatman Realty Group has come forward with an alternative to what was originally proposed, and that is to utilize a combination of duplex and quadplex condominium type layouts. So this phase tonight is the presentation of their general development plan. That's really the second step in the PUD process. As Chairman Vanderstelt noted, this Plan Commission will have an opportunity to get much more in detail at a future meeting. This is just general in nature to get your approval on the high-level aspects of this development. And then the applicant will go into much further detail with detailed construction plans, as well as the development of the PUD agreement, and as well as proceeding with the rezoning of the property. So village staff got together, and in a nutshell, some of the major items that I wanted to touch on that are in the memo. And then I think the applicant could come on up and give more of a tour of what has changed and the general nature of their layout. So one of the big aspects of this development is the applicant is proposing private infrastructure similar to Paradise Trails. This will contain private sanitary sewer, water main, storm sewer, as well as private roads. there will be a public, there'll be a trail system throughout the development, and the applicant is proposing that the perimeter trail be privately owned, privately maintained, but open to the general public. The internal trails will be privately built, maintained, and just for the residents within the development. The applicant was asked to take a larger picture view of this development and how it fits in with other things that are going to go on.
Dino, can you hear now?
They have it on mute.
Yeah, but now it's not on mute, but still there's no sound.
Dino,
Now it's on.
can you hear now?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, perfect.
But it shows as mute on the screen. And it shows that the camera is off too, but it's not.
That's me, Dino. I'm on mute.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
We are up and running from here right now.
So two primary points for consideration is the Plan Commission in favor of the double and quad condo layout? That's the primary consideration, and I think it'd be a good time for Jim to come up and kind of walk through the development plan, what has changed since the last time you've seen it, and then to point out a few of the key items that we're talking about.
I'm going to take my mask off so you can hear better. Is that okay with
Sure.
everybody?
And just because we got people on Zoom, that's fine.
Okay.
But, is that okay with everybody in the room, especially those closest to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you could identify, just to make sure that they know, like you normally do.
I'm Jim Seatman from Seatman Realty. My brother John, who's going to help point things out on the map to my right or to your left. And then Craig Caliando's here from Kingsway Homes. If you have any questions on the structure, because Kingsway will be building the structures. We were told by staff not to go through the nuts and bolts details that we did last time, but more to go through the changes, and so that's what we're going to hit for the high points. But again, it's 110 units total, with 33 duplex units or side-by-sides for a total of 66 units and 11 4x4s that John's pointing out there. So as far as big picture things, as Ryan had pointed out, sewer and water are going to be private. We are going to put a water pit in down at the entryway off of K, in which will meter the water for the private system. The system will be looped, and as staff has been working with us, they have some concerns to just make sure ultimately the 40 acres that we own will have a loop coming out of the Newman's project over to ours eventually, because Sandhill and Windrush are somewhat on the end of a balloon string, and we need to get that dialed back in ultimately and connect to have multiple loops through the system. So we have agreed to do that. We will work with Hector to come up with an agreement on that 40 acres because it's not being developed right now, in which assures the village that that loop will occur. Another point of interest on the 40 is that the village has done some water testing on that 40, and they'd like to do a well there someday in the future. And so we'll catch both of those things in the agreement at the same time, the well agreement as well as the looping system on that 40 as part of this project. The master plan for it, you can see that when we were here last, we had just the 60 acres with the 2s and the 4s on it, and the Plan Commission asked what's going to happen eventually around it. So we know that we have Walnut Grove to the east, that's in the village of Lisbon. We have to the north single-family subdivisions. We have the 40 acres that we own, and then just to the north of that 40 is the horse farm that the Youngbloods own right now. So we did the plan for you tonight where we included the 40 in the layout. You can see that we extended a road over 2K that we didn't have before on the plan, and then ultimately that will go into the 40. And our vision right now is for that area below the future park or KE extension to be part of Sandhill. To the northwest of the future KE, we believe that that might be part of Overlook Trails or possibly part of whatever the Youngbless do to the north of that. It's just too far out to know exactly, but we do know this: all of our streets would be all private with the exception of north of KE. That section that connects over to Overlook is going to have to be public because it stubs into that property line from Overlook and would need to be extended down to KE. But all of the other infrastructure that we have would be private in nature. The KE design has been reviewed multiple times by the county. We believe it's close to what they want for the configuration now. So that is close. Then as far as Sandhill, what we've done in Sandhill currently is we added that one street that we talked about in that lower left-hand corner. And then ultimately, the vision is if KE extension goes away, Winkleman Drive would be vacated from there to K, and then that would be part of the open space for Sandhill, and then we'd capture the land to the west. For now, though, you would see that we'd have the Sandhill access to Winkleman. It'll need passing lanes and bypass lanes on it until such time as that 40 develops or Winkleman gets vacated. Then we also looked at where it comes in at Walnut Grove. Before that was a through street to Walnut, but once we changed to the private streets, obviously you don't want public driving through private, so we made that a cul-de-sac, but we were concerned about emergency access, potentially to Walnut Grove or to our development, so we're proposing a breakaway emergency access from the end of that cul-de-sac that would tie into Terry Lane, it's called, to the east. That's going to need town of Lisbon approval as well, but from the standpoint of staff here, they liked the idea and asked us to proceed with that if we do okay with the GDP here tonight. The court on the lower part on the four-family area, you heard some Walnut Grove people come in at the last meeting and was concerned that those buildings got fairly tight to our east property line and to their homes, and asked if we would consider moving or bending that court a little bit to the west. We have done that in this plan, and so we've pulled the court over. Right now, the back of those four families to the property line is 80 feet. So it's a really significant depth away from that property line. Stormwater, we're looking at, on the 60-acre piece, 5 locations for stormwater. John can point those out to you. Again, Walnut Grove did come in and said that there's a fair amount of water coming down that Terry Lane. We haven't got into it in depth enough to look at that, but as you know, you can't put any more water in at any greater velocity. So we're going to have to engineer that, and obviously Ryan will review that to make sure that we don't impact those neighbors to the east any more than we do today. Then we have the trail system. It's a pretty extensive trail system. It's almost 2 miles of trails. And we're proposing the outside perimeter of the trail system on the 60 to be all public, similar to what we did at Windrush. And then we'll do the same thing on the 40 when that's eventually developed, where that will have the ring of public trail around it as well. The internal trails in Windrush, and we're proposing here to make those private. But in Windrush, we've never not allowed somebody to walk on it. It's more for us to police it a little bit easier on the internal trails, that if somebody's being disrespectful, dog issues, that a resident can go out and say, please don't come in. But I think we would put together a sign program with you where we make sure that the public knows that there's going to be an interaction here with the trail system. The phasing, we've showed 4 phases to the project. You'll see it on the bigger map. I apologize for the smaller ones. You can hardly read anything on it. So, John, you want to point out phase 1, and that includes some 4s and some 2s. Phase 2 is all 4s at this point, and we'll just have to see how those units differ in sale rates. Phase 3 is kind of in the center section, and then 4 is on the northerly section of the project. From the standpoint of buildings and structure, the only changes that you saw from the last time in this packet is we didn't include any color palettes and masonry looks, and you saw those in that packet. You'll see there'll be a lot of variety in colors. We're trying to make this look more like a single-family project than a condominium project. So these are going to look like single-family homes out there for the most part, at least the two-family ones. And so there'll be that masonry and color variety, and then we'll vary them, so we're not going to allow a lot of side-by-side of the same units, so that it really has a nice look to it and streetscape to it. The other thing that we changed on the project was the 4-family that we originally submitted to you only had one elevation to it. And now we've come up with a second elevation for it. And the idea again is to try to make those look a little different. So often you go into condominium projects and everything looks the same, you know, and you have to find an address to find it. And we're hoping that this would feel more like a subdivision where you can say I'm the third yellow house on the left. Will be how we determine coming back to you for further review. So, but at this point we anticipate it to be the 2s.
And the reason I'm asking you these questions is with the 4 families and being tight on the sewer for future development that hasn't been occurred yet, I'm just wondering if you put these amount of 4 families in here, is that going to work if the rest of them all become 4 families? I guess on the density for as far as the sewer. So if you'd like to keep them to the 2 families, I can see that working. But if we make what's left in the future all 4 families,
So, when I presented the sewer and water capacity review to the commission and the board a month or 2 ago, it was contemplated that in the 40-acre parcel, those would be duplex units on both sides of the road. So in any of these areas in the northeast part of the village, if the commission is looking at a higher density, it's going to have the effect of lessening density somewhere else within the northeast area.
So the answer is 2-family. I think Ryan answered that for us.
That's a good question.
You better sell well.
Jeff?
Chuck?
Just 1 second, Jeff Bierman, did you?
I yield.
Okay, Dino, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I went through this over the weekend. It looks pretty nice. Actually, I'm very impressed. I have to ask the developer a question that you don't have to answer anyway. With all the Newman condominiums and the another 110 from you, do you think that you have the correct marketing info, that it's not going to be a project that will last for years because it's not selling? Or do you think the demand is there, that there should be no issue?
Really good question. I probably should have Craig come up and answer that just because he's the one doing it right now. But the rate of sale, Craig's doing a similar product type in the city of Oconomowoc in the Paps Farms, and he can't build them fast enough. Is that fair to say?
That's accurate.
And we believe that Heartland is even more desirable from the standpoint that you're closer to in town, and so that the rate of sale could be even higher.
Okay. The other question I have is, when I looked at all the maps and all your drawings, where is the construction entry from? The major one
I'm not sure I
for
understand.
this project?
The construction what, Dino?
The entry, where
Entry.
all the trucks will come from,
Yeah.
where are they going into? What would be the major traffic entry to this project?
So it'd be definitely starting off a K,
You
for,
guys,
for,
is there any way you can turn that a little bit? Then I believe Ben can get
Yeah.
a camera on it and Dino can see exactly what you're talking. Sorry, but it's,
It's turned the wrong way.
can you see it?
No, you can, look up there. You can kind of see where you are.
Is that the camera there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to come closer this way.
Sorry, this is a pretty wimpy.
Okay, there, well, now you went too far the other way. Perfect.
He's been trying to cover me up for years.
I got the same thing in front of me, but, okay. So you come in directly as you go up the hill from JE.
So I would believe that originally it will start there and we'll work in, But ultimately, we'll probably switch to up on Winkleman Road, because we'll be finishing those units and paving them and landscaping, so we'll work our way to the north. So we have 2 access points off of Winkleman. As we phase, we'll work up Winkleman.
Okay, thank you. Well, my last comment is I'm all for it.
Thank you.
Nothing else, Dino?
Nope. They have provided quite a bit of information. I don't know if you looked at it. I looked at all the different profiles or architectural profiles of the houses. They look pretty nice.
Anybody else? Yep, go ahead. Floor is
Mr.
yours.
Caliendo, was it 2-family or 4-family that you can't build enough of quickly, or both?
Well, right now, the only thing that we're building out in Oconomowoc are the side-by-side 2-family units.
Okay.
And we're 90 units through a 134 unit complex out there, and we're constructing about 30 unit, building and selling and closing about 30 units a year. There weren't any 4 units planned for out there. We're doing a 4-unit building out in Waukesha right now. We're getting a lot of positive feedback for, but what we like about these 4-plexes is that it actually gives us a little bit lower price point, and we're seeing, you know, a gap in the market there. So we think this is going to be a nice product to kind of fill out the lower end of the market, and then we'll have the higher end of the market with the side-by-sides.
Yeah, I don't recall. Do we even have any 4 families in Heartland?
4 families?
None that look like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I think it's gonna sell. to be
Yeah,
quite
they're designed and they almost function like 2 duplexes that are just kind of put together. And we not only created a different, 2 different front elevations, but the elevations on each side of one building are slightly different. So we have 2 different schemes, but because they're different on each side too, it'll look like 4 different elevations, and with the mix of the 6 different color palettes that we have. We use all real thin cut stone. We use fiber cement hardy plank siding with a 25-year warranty on the pre-finished painting on it. So we mix that so it looks like a diverse single-family subdivision as opposed to, you know, cookie cutters.
Nice. And then what was the price point you think on these?
We think the 4-plexes will average 400, and that the side-by-side duplexes will average 450. And out at Pabst Farms, we're seeing the duplexes are ranging from, you know, 425 to 550, and even approaching 600. So they're averaging in that $450,000 to $500,000 range.
Cool.
Right?
Does anybody else have anything? Oh, you must have thought of another question. The floor is yours, Dino.
I did not want to ask this question, but since the gentleman brought it up, because I look at the base of the Newman development, the base price and where they sell at, it looks like you're gonna do a lot more construction faster and sell faster.
That's what we think too. I agree with you on that.
Well, I look at your base price of 400 and 450, substantially lower than what I see daily, and I'm right next to them on the other development. So that's why I asked the questions I asked.
Yeah. The other development is, those are standalone, single-family condominiums, and there's a lot of, you know, cost benefits and economies of scale by combining 2 units and then even combining 4 units. So that's why we're able to achieve a better price point out there.
Yeah, but the consumer is still a consumer. $100,000 is $100,000.
Right.
Thank you.
Some of us have more than others, so we get $100,000.
More opportunities for the village to draw property taxes further, since their tax base will be going up by all this condos.
Okay, let's stick to the project. Are you, anything else?
Thank you.
One thing I wanted to ask, and it was touched on a little bit, the trail that's going to go all the way around the development. You guys have touched on allowing public access to that, which I think is great. I think that because one of the things that Heartland has done a good job of connectivity. and making sure that people can go and walk, and you would never want to see it become where each one of these developments is just its own little gated community, so to speak. But is it going to be an issue that in some way, shape, or form, while that is public access and the people can go and jog, they can, walk out there on that outside perimeter, is it going to be difficult to incorporate that into making it that the condo association or the individuals, however they work it, would be taking care of like the snow on that walkway, kind of like us here in the village. If there's a sidewalk in front of your house while the village actually even owns it, by law you gotta maintain it. Is that something that's going to be incorporated, and can that be incorporated into the documents in some way?
It's not a problem. You have it already in the village. Windrush has got public trails in it. Maryhill's got public trails in it. This is a continuation of your comprehensive land use plan and park plan that's been trying to get this interconnection of neighborhoods, and we're absolutely all for it. So it is not an issue. And it has, at Windrush, we've never heard one person concerned or complain about the public versus private trails, ever.
I wanted to ask, I had another question, and this is coming from something, or it's a request / question, but it's more so a request. And it, I talked with our village engineer, who's very good, and the situation that did come up really took care of it. But during construction, we did have something that came up, and you learn from it, and a lot of us are representing those residents to a point on this commission, but also looking out for the village's, the best interest, and that we follow that plan, the comprehensive plan, doing the right things. But it's important that it doesn't affect anybody else. It's your property. You should be able to do what you want to do on your property, but we want to do it where it does, and the engineer does a good job. It's never happened with you. You've always done things above board, and no one would ever do it on purpose. I just want to have that said, because I would be just shocked if something like that happened again. We got to just really stay on it, so.
When I started in this business in 1987, we didn't have stormwater basins. We just put pipe right to the property line and aim it at the neighbor. and every time it rained, you get the phone call at 2 in the morning, my basement's flooded, and John and I get up and go get the vacuum and suck out the mud. This is much better. We'd much rather build the ponds, believe me.
Yeah.
That was very motivating.
Yes.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Floor's yours.
The house to the north, which is the old Young Bluff farmhouse that they moved up there, the road seems to go into the right-of-way of your land, is that correct?
That's correct.
How does that fit? Is that gonna stay like that?
It is. They, when this was originally the Youngblood property.
Right.
And the Youngbloods, when they moved that house was moved there. It was over in Bristlecone Pines
Yep, I
originally.
remember.
And when they did that, they created that easement because the driveway location where it should have been on their property was too close to the hill.
Right.
And it was a vision problem. So they have an easement that stays in our open space, and that will continue.
Okay.
My only caveat to that, Ann, is when the ultimate KE extension changes, that could change it, rejigger that easement for her to get out. We have not gotten through that with the county at this point. So.
Would they do some excavation on the Winkleman Road then to maybe?
Yeah, that hill's been always a problem as far as sight lines are concerned. You
Yeah.
live up there, so
Yeah.
it's I think that they're gonna have to flatten that, but none of that has been engineered at this
Okay.
point.
Just as long as they can still,
Function.
Yeah.
And we've dropped off, my daughter boards her horses across the street, so.
at Chuck's, yeah.
So we have dropped off things, and I've met with Carol Youngblood since the last meeting with you to make sure she understands what's happening stormwater-wise and building-wise. And I made her aware of this meeting this evening, so.
Yeah, she was at our last meeting, wasn't she?
Yes, yeah.
I have a question on the perimeter trail. Would you plan to do that in 4 phases, or is it possible to do that in the first phase?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I would say that I don't think we'd be opposed to doing the trail system or more of a loop, so at least we get a loop out of it there, but I wouldn't want to commit to it till we know more engineering wise. One of the things to note on that trail system too is to the very north, we're proposing the trail to be in an isolated natural area, and just so you know that that's there. And it's because everything else is wide open trail-wise, and we'd like to at least have a trail that's somewhat going into the woods to just give a little nicer feel to it. So we'll field stake that, save as many trees as we can, and go through that little wooded section. But to your question, Ryan, if we can do it and we aren't complicating any stormwater as we get to the north, because there's 2 ponds on that north end and one along that north west corner. So there's a lot of dirt to be moved over in that section.
With all of that, I do want to throw in, and I think the board is already aware of this, that, you know, one of the things I liked about this project is that it fits right along with what we're trying to accomplish, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a very nice project. It is going to take a change in zoning, which isn't the end of the world. A lot of that is just because of how we're doing it. So there may be multiple meetings. I know you guys know that. I guess I'm just throwing out for the board, and maybe it doesn't bother the board that much, but it always seems, you know, once everything starts rolling, and I understand time is money. So once everything starts rolling, it's like, okay, you guys look like you're going to approve this. Let's hurry up and get through it. We're going to take our time and get through it. But what I do ask for our attorney, for the village staff, for everybody, that as fast as when documents are needed, as opposed to them coming 2 days before a meeting, getting them in quicker time. It just, I know it gets very tough. It's not like this is the only thing you're doing, but it's very helpful when those things can get, you know, to staff and get in on a proper time frame so they can be reviewed. It happens quite often with, you know how it is at the end, all of a sudden it's like, oh, we got this and this is going on. And it makes the public question whether we're talking with you in back rooms and stuff like that. So when everything is just rolling along smoothly, it makes it work much better.
We like that too.
And I yield to anybody that's got anything else that they, Mr. De La Mora,
Yes.
the floor is yours.
Yeah, forgive me, but I'm kind of a newcomer.
I think,
to this project.
Hector, if you could allow Hector to kind of take over the podium, because I believe that
Yeah.
microphone is yes.
Yeah. I'm sort of a newcomer to this project. I've only been exposed to this as a result of a staff meeting, and I just have some very minor questions with regards to the trail system. I can understand the concern that you may have with regards to stormwater drainage. Would you be open to the idea of establishing the trail but not finishing it in a paved fashion so that pedestrians can walk through a demarcated area while you go through the various phases of build-out?
So it'd be just grass trails, are you saying, until we can pave them?
Yeah, or bark of some kind so that people know to stay on those trails.
I better come up there.
Yeah.
I guess I just, again, would like to wait until we know construction-wise what we're doing there. But one of the things we did in Windrush, I believe, is we demarked or located the general location of the trails on our plat so that the village would know that they're going to be there. And then we physically surveyed them once they were placed and did an easement after the fact, just so that we know exactly where they are. But I don't envision a lot of people wanting to go up and walk around up there until there's more paved. We used to do a lot of trails that were grass trails and chip trails, and they got moderate use. When we started paving trails, it was unbelievable the amount of use that people do. And if you looked at Windrush this last summer, with COVID. I mean, it's the number one amenity in there by far, because people want to walk on those trails, but we'd work with the village on it.
No, Hector, could you, and I just want to interject, can you give the reason, I think I know why it is, can you give the reasoning on the question, or what's the reason that it would be important to at least have the location? Is that because the agreements will have to have indicated exactly where that is, or?
Well, that would be one thing. For example, in regards to the two developments that we just did, the Newman development and the Lightning development, the trail went in right off the bat, basically, under the agreements. And since there's no park dedication here taking place, the trustees will be able to justify the approval of the density, even though you are below the density of 2.5, you're at 1.86. In that connection, have you given some thought to the interconnectivity of this trail system with other trail systems? I know that the trails kind of end at the property line. Are there trails on the other side, or what do you have in mind for those?
There's no trails across Walnut Grove, but we're gonna make a connection at this cul-de-sac, and that's that emergency access connection trail. So it'll be used both for emergency access and connection to the trail. So there's nothing up here. These are all single-family homes to the back, so there wouldn't be any connection to those. To the west, we've shown the interconnection here to our 40, and then we believe that the village is going to continue to want to connect to the west from here. So whatever connections we need down in this area to continue that trail system would be fine. We have the trail across the entryway at K. We do believe that people will come across from Windrush, because there's the public trail that runs right along the frontage of K in front of Windrush, and that they could come across and then jump onto this trail. So probably the one place that you'd want to consider a crossing vector would be here, just to interconnect between Windrush and Sandhill. But then I think it starts happening to the west. But yeah, Mary Hill's got the frontage trail system, Overlook's got it, so you guys are really getting some really neat trail systems throughout the village school. So we wouldn't consider putting a parking lot in there.
I see. I know you do a lot of development in the city of Brookfield. And I've had the pleasure of walking the Hidden Lake trail system that was created. And they do have a designated parking area of maybe 6, 7 cars. And so that's why I came up with that question.
That you're done, that's it, Hector? Yeah. Good. I think everyone has got, anybody that's wanted to at least has gotten a chance to speak. Does anybody that has not gotten a chance to speak yet have anything before we would move beyond keeping the floor open, so to speak? So no one has anything, and as you see on the agenda, just putting it out to the board exactly how things are, we could all walk away from this meeting and sit and think about things for a while. We've obviously moved through the concept meeting. Now we're trying to, now you start whittling away that piece of wood that someday will become the project, for lack of a better way of saying it. So at this point, we could either all walk away, or if a commissioner did want to make a motion to continue to move forward with, which basically, and if I'm saying this incorrectly, basically it would be approving that we like this plan, the layout, the engineer's report. We obviously would like our attorney to keep looking into it, because you're gonna ultimately be the one that's gonna be working with the administrator in review of the PUD documents, which are always fun, a lot of pages. But we can make a motion to keep moving forward here.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Since you said it, and you repeated yourself a couple times, I would like to make the motion to keep moving on this project. There's no need to delay it. We had plenty of information for a couple meetings. There's plenty of information from the developers. I think it's great for the village, and I'm making the motion to keep going, whatever the next steps are. There's no need for
You wanna
delays.
help him with his, cause I
So-
don't know exactly what the next step is.
So you are looking, so you are looking to make a motion to, approve the Sandhill condominium development PUD petition for a general development plan.
Yes.
And I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. It's been moved and seconded to approve the general layout and general development plan, which will include a PUD. Any discussion?
I would ask that that piece, big map, can we do this instead of that little, whatever that was.
Well, in going on that, and I said, and this goes for all the commissioners, if there's ever a time where you get something and you don't like how it is, please reach out to the administrator or someone that's up in the office, reach out to even our inspector and say, hey, I'm not doing anything at the meeting unless the contractor or the developer provides this to me. I'm quite certain that they'll get that thing on their plotter. They'll even probably have it delivered to the office within a few hours.
And I would have this in my office for you to look at ahead of time.
So we do want to make sure the commissioners are getting what they have to. I know it creates extra work sometimes, but it, especially with things this large, you commissioners are entitled to have whatever you think you need. So please don't hesitate to call. Anybody else with a discussion?
I have a question, I can't find it. On one of these maps, if I can find it, I noticed there's a little slab that's in the town of Merton. Is that a farm that's there? Is that the, I can't think of their name.
I think you're talking about this little piece
Right.
here.
Yes.
Yeah, that used to be owned by the Youngbloods. There's another Youngblood family that lives in this ranch right here.
Yeah, because what I was looking at was how this kind of jagged over here on this one.
Yeah, this piece was purchased by us, I don't know, 10 years ago,
Okay,
a long time ago, and then it'll be part of Sandhill.
so,
And there's a little metal building here right now that we store equipment for maintaining the open space, and that'll ultimately be torn down.
so this little part that says town of Merton, will that stay in the town, or is
Yeah,
that?
that will stay in the town, because that's not owned by us.
Okay, I gotcha, okay. It was confusing with this map versus this
Yeah.
one, I couldn't, okay.
Good
Thank you,
question.
that's all I had, that's all I was wondering.
Has this been seconded yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna call the question to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. We'll continue to move forward. You'll work with staff, and staff will keep all commissioners updated. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
I entertain a motion unless someone else. Oh, go ahead. Dino, did you?
No, that's
Okay.
okay. I was gonna congratulate you for keeping the minute in order.
And on that note, I'd entertain a motion.
I said,
No, I'd entertain a motion. We're not gonna get one, are we?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All in favor? Aye. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Merry